I know it's not morning for everybody, but it's Sabbath morning here. And here is Arkansas in the United States.
Her er Arkansas i USA.
Let's open with a word of prayer.
Lad os starte med en bøn.
Dear Lord, we want to thank you
Kære Gud, vi vil gerne takke dig,
as you continue to teach us
i det, at du fortsætter med at lære os
the truth
sandheden,
as we're confronted with our own emotional response to that truth.
i forbindelse med, at vi bliver konfronteret med vores egen emotionelle reaktion til den
We
sandhed.
are still grappling with our own response to
Vi prøver stadig at få hånd om vores egen
the
respons
changings that are happening in our lives.
til de forandringer, som sker i vores liv.
Our understanding of what is right and what is wrong
Vores forståelse af, hvad der er rigtigt og hvad der er forkert,
is still fragile.
det er stadig
We
skrøbeligt.
ask that you would continue to guide and direct us,
Ved at du må vejlede os og guide os,
and that we would be patient with one another
og at vi må være tålmodige med hinanden
in this process of growth.
i den her proces, hvor vi vokser.
In Jesus' name, we ask for blessing today.
I Jesu navn beder vi om en velsignelse i dag.
Amen.
Amen.
So this is the second camp meeting in
Så det her det er det andet møde. Camp meeting.
This is the second camp meeting in the United States.
Det her det er det andet camp meeting i USA.
Last week we were in Florida. This week we're in Arkansas.
Sidste uge var vi i Florida, og i dag er vi i Arkansas.
As we did last week, we have an in-person meeting here, and we're going to
Som vi gjorde i sidste uge, så havde vi
go ahead.
et møde, hvor folk er til stede, fysisk til stede.
And we're going to have a discussion amongst ourselves with translation, of course.
Og vi har en diskussion med hinanden her med oversættelse, selvfølgelig.
At least for the time being, I'm going to carry on the discussion that we had last week.
I den tid, vi har, så vil jeg fortsætte med den diskussion, vi havde sidste uge.
You remember the conversation began with a question.
I husker samtalen begyndte med et spørgsmål
Of how a member would behave on the Sabbath. It's about Sabbath observance.
om, hvordan et medlem vil opføre sig på sabbaten. Det handler om, hvordan vi observerer, eller hvordan vi
And the
holder.
question was centered around this person's schooling or their college.
Og personens spørgsmål omhandlede personens skole, universitets.
And rather than simply answer the person's question about the rules and regulations of Sabbath keeping,
Og i stedet for blot at give et svar på, hvordan man holder sabbaten omkring personens spørgsmål,
I hope we can all remember
så håber jeg, at vi alle kan huske,
that I suggested the more interesting question
at jeg foreslog det mere interessante spørgsmål,
was why the member was asking that question in the first place.
var, at hvorfor spørger personen det her spørgsmål for det første.
Like many of you, I've been an Adventist for many years.
Som mange af jer har jeg været adventist i mange år.
I've been in the movement for a long time.
Jeg har været i bevægelsen i lang tid.
And I think it's fair and reasonable to say
Jeg synes, det er fair, og det giver mening at sige,
that the vast majority of us, if not all of us,
at den største del af os, hvis ikke alle af os,
know the rules and regulations of Sabbath keeping.
kender reglerne og reguleringerne i forhold til sabbats.
So on the surface,
Så på overfladen,
the question might appear redundant,
så på overfladen, så virker spørgsmålet måske,
because we should all know the answer to that question.
fordi vi bør allerede vide, hvad svaret er på det spørgsmål.
So our discussion was focused upon why the question was being asked.
Så vores diskussion fokuserede på, hvorfor det her spørgsmål blev stillet.
I don't know what was in the mind of the person who was asking it. I didn't consult with them, so we are assuming some things.
Jeg har ikke talt med personen, som har stillet spørgsmålet, så vi antager nogle ting.
And a principle that I think all of us are aware of,
Og et princip, jeg tror, vi alle er bevidste om,
but sometimes we may forget,
men vi nogle gange glemmer,
is that the personal is political.
er, at det personlige er politisk.
So I just want to ask what that means for some people here.
Så jeg vil lige stille det spørgsmål, hvad det betyder for nogle af de mennesker, der er her.
Because some people flip that phrase around and say the political is the personal.
Fordi nogen flipper det, eller nogen de bytter rundt på det, siger, at det politiske er det personlige.
So there are two key words, personal and political.
Så der er to ord, keywords,
I
nøgleord.
just want to ask people what they understand that phrase or term to mean.
Så det politiske og det personlige, så jeg spørger folk, hvad det betyder for dem.
Bob, how do you understand that phrase?
Bob, hvordan forstår du den sætning?
Just so somehow, when I ask a question and you have to give a second for the translation. Translator to speak, so.
To me, it means that your understanding is universal. You don't have a personal life that's segregated from what you understand politically in the events that are externally.
So Bob said
Så Bob siger, eller sagde,
that you can't separate your personal experience,
at du kan ikke separere din personlige
your personal views
din personlige erfaringer, din personlige
from what you see in the world, politically and socially speaking.
fra det, du ser politisk og socialt set.
Is that fair representation?
Yes.
You want to say some more?
Det er en fair repræsentation.
Not right now.
Okay. Sarah, what do you understand the personal is the political to mean?
Så hvordan forstår du det til det politiske?
What I understand is what I think means privately is the views can be the same as what is happening externally, right? In the world.
Just say that again. What affects you personally?
Yeah, it's also the same as what is happening in the public life. You can't separate the two.
So Sarah said, what affects her personally
Så Sara sagde, at det, som påvirker hende personligt,
is the same thing that affects people publicly,
er det samme, som påvirker mennesker offentligt,
and you can't separate them.
og du kan ikke separere dem.
Anyone else? Does anyone else want to give their understanding of personal is political?
Er der andre, der vil give deres forståelse af det personlige og det politiske?
Maybe the wording.
I'm just going to go with Linda because Okay, then. Linda,
Well, mine's a little more simplistic.
just a little bit louder.
Mine's a little more simplistic than others. You live up to what you believe, what you believe in your heart is how you live and they all have to. And if you have a good understanding politically of what is right and wrong, then you're living up to that, through your actions.
Okay, so Linda said
Okay, så Linda sagde,
the personalist political means
at det personlige og politiske betyder,
when you see what's happening in the world in politics,
at når du ser det, som sker i verden politisk,
you align your personal life
så udligner du dit personlige liv
with what's correct and right politically and socially.
med, hvad der er korrekt politisk og socialt.
Is that a fair representation? Okay. Alyssa?
That a person's, the personal principles are reflected in a person's dealings with others.
So I think Alyssa said something really similar to what Linda said.
Så jeg tror, Lisa sagde noget, der var meget af noget af det, som Linda sagde.
So I'm not going to repeat what she said.
Så jeg gentager ikke det, hun sagde.
And someone online said, I wish I was there to answer in person.
En online siger, at jeg ville ønske, at jeg var der, så jeg kunne svare fysisk.
So I do understand the stress that people online are feeling because they're all shouting their answers out and I'm not able to hear. So I apologize for that.
Så jeg forstår godt det stress, som det skaber for folk online, fordi de gerne vil fortælle om det, de tænker.
Okay, anyone else?
Er der andre?
So is the word political a good word in that statement?
Er ordet politisk et godt ordvalg i denne sætning?
So we've got no,
Så vi har et nej,
yes, someone says yes, someone says no,
nogen siger ja, nogen siger nej,
yes.
ja,
So it depends.
det kommer an på, det afhænger.
Okay, so there's a mixture of yes and no. I guess it depends upon what a person understands the phrase even to mean.
Så der er nogen, der siger ja, og nogen siger nej. Det kommer lidt an på, eller det kommer an på, hvordan folk folk definerer ordet til at være. Til at betyde.
So I'm going to try to collect those thoughts together.
Så jeg prøver at sætte de her tanker sammen,
without imprinting, which is difficult, my own thoughts.
uden at pådutte mine egne tanker.
So all of us experience the world. We interact with it.
Så alle af os, vi oplever verden, vi interagerer med den.
And by the world, I mean society.
Og ved verden, så mener vi samfundet.
And if I were to put it simply, society is managed or controlled by the government.
Og hvis jeg skulle sige det i simple termer, så bliver samfundet styret af,
And even in a country like the United States,
og i et land som USA,
which promotes the idea that they have government,
som promoverer, at de har regering.
who can finish the last bit?
Det han sagde før, det var,
Now,
at samfundet er styret af regeringen.
by the people, for the people.
For folket.
One more.
Og en mere.
Okay, so we'll begin. You have government of the people. So the government comes from the people.
Så regeringen kommer fra folket.
Second one. By the people. That means the people elect the government.
Så det er for folket, og det er af folket, og det betyder, at det er folket, der
third one.
vælger regeringen.
For the people. So the government, sorry,
For,
so the government serves the people.
så regeringen
And
tjener.
we call that a democracy. So even though if we were to say that the United States is the epitome of good governance,
Så selv hvis vi sagde, at USA er epitomien
those three,
af god regering,
the ethos of the American system, those 3 points, do they actually work or not?
ethos af regeringen, af de her 3 pointer, virker de, eller gør de ikke?
So sometimes,
Så nogle gange,
no,
nej,
you've got to speak loud. Depends,
afhænger af
depends.
afhænger.
So I'm going to suggest if we look over the last 8 years, perhaps,
Så jeg foreslår, hvis vi kigger hen over de sidste 8 år,
it doesn't really work.
så virker det ikke rigtigt.
And I think that's being generous if we only go 8 years, because we can go further back and see it doesn't really work.
Og det mener jeg er ret generøst, fordi vi kan gå flere år tilbage og se, at det ikke virker.
The idea of the popular vote and the electoral college,
Ideen om,
the fact that however we do the math, half of the country didn't want that government in office. However far you go back, it's always around half the people don't want that government.
det vil altid være halvdelen af folket, som ikke ønsker den regering, og du kan gå langt tilbage i tiden og se, at det er det samme.
So for good or bad,
Så for det bedre eller det dårlige,
even though there's this high calling
selvom der er det her eller det her kald,
that it's society that controls the government,
at det er samfundet, som kontrollerer regeringen.
remember those 3 things?
Vi husker de her 3 ting.
The reality is that the government controls society.
Realiteten er, at det er regeringen, som kontrollerer samfundet.
Human beings have a way of manipulating people.
Mennesker har en tendens til at manipulere andre.
And what's even worse about that
Og hvad der er endnu værre ved det er,
is that many of us like to be manipulated.
er, at mange af os kan godt lide at blive manipuleret.
It's an easier life to let someone else do all the thinking.
Det er et nemmere liv at lade andre ting for en.
So I understand a representative government works,
Jeg forstår godt, at et repræsentativt system virker,
but it's filled with problems.
men det er fyldt med problemer.
And we need to recognize that our movement also has all of those built-in problems too.
Og vi bliver nødt til at anerkende, at vores bevægelse har også alle de her indbyggede problemer.
It's not that the leadership were voted in or not voted in. That's not the problem.
Det er ikke det, at ledelsen blev stemt for eller ikke gjort. Det er ikke problemet.
It's just that it's very difficult to have governance or representation
Det er bare det,
that fully reflects the needs or the wants of the society or the members in this case.
det er bare svært at have, have en repræsentant eller en regering, som afspejler de behov, altså afspejler alle behovene af de folk, der er. Yes.
Back to our point.
Tilbage til pointen.
It seems that the word political is a reasonable word to use in that phrase,
Det virker til at være et godt ordvalg, når man bruger politisk i den sætning.
because it's a synonym for society or the world.
Fordi det er et synonym for samfundet eller verden.
Because what really controls society and directs it is the government.
For det, som virkelig kontrollerer samfundet, det er regeringen.
So the personal, I'm not going to spend much time on because that's relatively straightforward, I think.
Fordi det personlige, det vil jeg ikke bruge så meget tid på. Det er ret nemt at forstå, synes jeg. Tror jeg.
So we're going to look at this problem from the negative, which is what we often do.
Så vi ser det her problem fra det negative perspektiv, hvilket vi ofte gør.
We're not going to see the benefits of it. We're going to see the bad side.
Vi kommer ikke til at se fordelene ved det. Vi kommer til at se det dårlige perspektiv.
So each of us, when we look at our lives,
Så hver en af os, når vi ser på vores liv,
and things don't go well,
og ting ikke går godt,
how did I get into a bad marriage?
hvordan kommer jeg ind i et dårligt ægteskab?
Why have my children turned out this way?
Hvorfor er mine børn blevet sådan her?
The obvious answer is because I'm a bad parent.
Det åbenlyse svar er, fordi at jeg er en dårlig forælder.
Why is my health not good?
Hvorfor er mit helbred ikke godt?
Because I eat bad food.
Fordi jeg spiser dårlig mad.
Why did I not get that job?
Hvorfor fik jeg ikke det job?
Because I'm not educated.
Fordi jeg ikke er uddannet.
Because I'm lazy at school.
Fordi jeg er doven i skolen.
Everything that I've described just there
Alt det, som jeg lige har beskrevet der,
are all personal issues, personal problems.
det er alle sammen personlige problemer.
They're all my fault.
De er alle sammen min skyld.
And if I were a better person, I wouldn't be in that mess.
Og hvis jeg var en bedre person, så ville jeg ikke være i det her rod.
If only I had made good decisions,
Hvis bare jeg havde lavet gode valg, taget gode valg, beslutninger,
or I had been, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I'd made good decisions. So most people view the world that way.
så de fleste folk, de ser samfundet på den måde.
And then someone had this thought. It wasn't the first person to have this thought.
Og så var der nogen, der havde den her tanke. Ikke den første person, men der var nogen, der havde den.
This idea has been permeating humanity for millennia.
Den her tankegang har blevet sendt, eller har
But
gennem-
the phrase is quite recent, relatively speaking, and it's in vogue, at least in the movement.
det har gennemsyret samfundet længe, og det er et ord, der også er i bevægelsen, tror jeg, det var det, han sagde.
Because it's in vogue among radical feminists.
Fordi det er blandt radikale feminister.
Sarah, all of those things I've just described,
Sarah, alle de her ord, som jeg lige har beskrevet,
I'm in this mess because I'm a bad person.
jeg er i det her rod, fordi jeg er en dårlig person.
What does this statement say to me?
Hvad betyder den her sætning for mig?
So Sarah says she's going to apply it to her life and she's going to ask herself, so where did she go wrong?
Så Sarah siger, hun vil gøre brug af det her i sit liv, og spørge sig selv, hvor det gik galt.
Or what could she have done better so that she wouldn't be in this situation?
Eller hvad kunne hun have gjort bedre, så hun ikke ville have været endt i den her situation?
Okay, so I'll be gentle, but I think that was the wrong answer.
Så jeg vil være blid og sige, at jeg tror, det var det forkerte svar.
Because it's not the answer you gave originally
For det var ikke det svar, du startede med at give.
when I asked you the question at the beginning,
Når jeg stillede dig spørgsmålet i starten.
because you gave the right answer then.
Fordi du gav det rigtige svar der.
So someone else.
Så en anden.
I'm not directly involved with this group, but I am married to somebody that is. And
So
in my opinion,
So someone who's married to someone who's in the movement, their
So-
opinion is,
So-
I have to get it translated, but you can't hear, I'm sorry. So we've got,
in my opinion, there is no bad decision
What-
because you learn from a bad decision. And if you don't
One
learn
second.
from a bad decision,
you have to stop, sorry. Sorry. We have a visitor,
Vi har en besøgende.
they're laughing,
De griner,
and he said,
og han siger,
he said, there is no bad decision because we can learn from our we can learn from our choices that we've made.
der er ikke nogen dårlige valg, fordi vi lærer fra vores valg.
So carry on.
I would say the negative point is when a person chooses not to learn from that decision.
Okay, so he says the reason it's negative is because we don't choose to learn.
Grunden til, at det bliver negativt, er fordi, at vi ikke vælger at lære fra det, vi har gjort.
So all of that is true.
Så alt det er sandt.
So I'm responding to your point.
But
So I'm going to respond to your point. So all of that is true,
Så alt det der, det er rigtigt.
but it doesn't address this issue that I want us to understand.
Men det adresserer ikke den problematik, som jeg gerne vil have, vi skal forstå.
Because the power of this idea
Fordi styrken ved den her idé,
is that the reason I'm in this mess
er, at grunden til, at jeg er i det her rod,
is not because of me.
er ikke på grund af mig selv.
It's not all those choices that I made that I've given examples of.
Det er ikke alle de valg, jeg har taget, som jeg har givet eksempler på.
The reason I'm in this mess
Grunden til, at jeg er i det her rod,
is because of you folks.
er på grund af jer. Jer
This
mennesker.
is your fault, not my fault.
Det her, det er jeres skyld, ikke min skyld.
And the reason I know that
Og grunden til, at jeg ved det,
is because I had a secret meeting
er fordi, jeg havde et hemmeligt møde
with some random people,
med nogle
and
tilfældige.
I asked them the same questions I asked myself.
Og jeg stillede dem det samme spørgsmål, som jeg stillede mig selv.
And lo and behold, completely different people are in the same mess that I am in.
Og se, at de samme mennesker er i det samme rod, som jeg er.
So we'll get a bit more specific.
Så vi bliver lidt mere specifikke nu.
They weren't totally random people.
De var ikke helt tilfældige mennesker.
They were all men.
De var alle mænd,
And all those men had messed up lives.
og alle de mænd, de havde forskruet liv.
And it dawned upon us,
Og det faldt os.
the thought came into our minds, in English, it dawned upon us,
Og det faldt os.
we had a realization
Vi havde,
that we had been lied to,
vi indså, at vi var blevet løjet over,
because all the women had told us,
fordi alle kvinderne havde fortalt os.
she told me,
Hun fortalte mig,
and it turned out that this other she told him,
og det viste sig, at den anden hende fortalte ham.
that the reason your life is a failure
er, at grunden til, at dit liv er en
is because you were constructed that way.
grunden til, at dit liv er en
By design, by birth, men are just weak and feeble.
grunden til, at dit liv er en fiasko, fordi at mænd er ved fødslen genetisk set,
And when I looked at my fellow
de er bare svage.
brothers,
Og når jeg ser på mine brødre omkring mig,
they didn't appear that way to me.
så virkede de ikke sådan, når jeg så på dem.
So what we all realized,
Så det vi alle sammen indså,
and we could only have done that when we got together as men,
og vi kunne kun se det, når vi kom sammen som mænd,
is that there's a conspiracy going on,
at der er en konspiration, som er i gang. Som,
instigated by clever women
som bliver
who
lavet,
have foisted a lie upon us.
som bliver påduttet af os af kvinder, som lyver, som har,
And it's not my fault,
og det er ikke min skyld,
it's the system,
det er systemets skyld,
it's society,
det er samfundet,
it's the government,
det er regeringen,
or the word we use, it's politics.
eller det ord, som vi bruger, det er politik.
I said I wasn't going to give too much of my own opinion, but I've probably given more than I should have done.
Jeg har sagt, at jeg ikke vil give for meget af min egen mening, men jeg har nok givet mere af den nu.
But to redeem myself, I think that's what Sarah said at the very beginning.
Men for at redde mig selv, så tror jeg, det var det, Sara sagde i begyndelsen.
The reason each of us are in this situation
Grunden til, at hver af os er i den her situation,
it's not because we made all of these bad decisions and we can rectify them.
er ikke på grund af, at vi lavede alle de her dårlige beslutninger, og vi kan,
It's that politics or the system is inherently opposed to us, against us.
og vi kan rektificere dem, men det er fordi, at systemet er imod os.
So obviously I flipped all of our story around.
Tydeligvis så har jeg byttet om på rollerne i historien,
Because I wanted us to see the absurdity of the situation.
for jeg vil gerne vise, hvor absurd det her er.
So just for everybody online, we've got poor signal here, and I apologize for that.
For alle dem, der er online, så har vi et dårligt signal her.
So I turned the story round because I wanted us to see the absurdity or the silliness of this.
Så jeg vendte historien om, fordi jeg vil gerne se, hvor tåbeligt eller fjollet det her, og hvor absurd det er.
Because in the real world, it looks so normal,
Fordi i den virkelige verden, så ser det så normalt ud.
people, women actually believe the problem is them.
Folk eller kvinder tror, at problemet er dem.
This problem has been going on for so long, 6 millennia,
Problemet, som har stået på i så mange år, i 6
it's ingrained in women
i 6 århundreder,
and men
det er ikke,
that this is normal.
det er indgroet i mænd og kvinder, at det er normalt.
And I know we speak about culture as opposed to religion,
Og jeg ved, at vi taler om kultur frem for religion.
I think I've spoken about them as the same coin, but the two faces of that coin.
Jeg tror, jeg har talt om dem som siderne af en mønt, som 2 sider af samme mønt.
Because whether you go to the priesthood of the family of Aaron,
Fordi hvor end du går til præsterne af Aaron,
or you go to evolutionary biology,
eller du går til evolutionært biologi,
you always get to the same place.
så kommer du altid til det samme sted.
that human brains are gendered.
At menneskelige hjerner, de er ikke,
By design, men and women are fundamentally different.
at de er, altså de er bestemt af køn, at mænd og kvinder er
So
fundamentalt,
let me give an example.
at mænd og kvinder er forskellige. Så lad os give et eksempel.
My personal position, my situation that I find myself in,
Så min personlige situation, som jeg befinder mig selv i,
all the examples I gave earlier,
alle de eksempler, jeg gav tidligere,
they're rooted in my societal or political situation.
de har fundament
So I'm married
i samfundet, tror jeg, han sagde. Så jeg er gift,
and I'm in a relationship that has domestic violence.
og jeg er i et forhold, hvor der er,
Which means 99% of the time I'm a woman.
hvor der er vold i hjemmet, hvor 99% af tiden, så vil det sige, at jeg er en kvinde.
So why is that domestic violence going on?
Så hvorfor sker der det her vold i hjemmet?
I know we sort of call it, we attribute this to cars, but maybe I just married a lemon or someone who was bad.
Jeg er ikke sikker på, han sagde, at måske det her, det bare kommer af
Linda,
at gifte os
why am
med.
I in this situation?
Linda, hvorfor er jeg i den her situation?
Go ahead.
Society,
Because society blamed women for everything.
Fordi samfundet giver kvinder skylden for alt.
what's the right?
Society.
Yeah.
So men feel enabled or they have a right
Mænd føler sig i stand til, eller føler, de har rettigheden til, eller retten til
to get back at women.
til at give kvinder igen,
Anything else?
hævne sig på kvinder.
Okay, so that's why that violence happens.
Så det er derfor, den vold, den forekommer.
Kathy?
Kathy?
I just want to say that in my experiences with the women I've known involved in those situations, they were raised, abused, or violence perpetrated upon them as children. Excuse my voice.
So Kathy said that she knows women who are in that situation.
Så Kathy siger, at hun kvinder, som har været, hun kender kvinder, som har været i den her situation.
And more often than not, they were brought up in abusive families.
Og mere oftere end ikke, så kommer de fra vold, altså har de vokset op i familier, som var voldelige,
And they
eller
don't know any different.
misbrug.
And those women don't know any different.
Og kvinderne kender ikke til andet.
Just a personal situation is, I mean, a friend.
I won't go to personal ones if that's okay.
I mean, they go and I know people that will continue even when they were almost killed.
So when they're in those bad marriages,
Og de er i de her dårlige ægteskaber,
they remain in those relations.
så bliver de i den.
They remain in that bad relationship.
De forbliver i de her dårlige forhold.
So we spoke about the women in that relationship.
Så vi taler om kvinderne i de her forhold.
Never heard anything about the men.
Man hører aldrig noget om mændene.
But why are the men doing that?
Men hvorfor gør mændene det her?
Wrong expectations.
The men have wrong expectations.
Mænd har forkerte forventninger.
Carol? So men don't speak, they don't know how to communicate.
Mænd kan ikke finde ud af at tale, de kan ikke finde ud af at kommunikere.
Okay, so I just want to add to that. I agree with those answers.
Jeg er enig med de svar. Jeg vil bare lige tilføje noget.
I think what we need to get to grips with
Det, som jeg tror, vi er nødt til at komme,
is that this is not a feeble woman marrying a bad man.
jeg tror, vi bliver nødt til at komme til enighed om, at det her, det er ikke
It
en
is that,
kvinde, som del, eller som gifter sig med en,
but that's the personal dynamic.
det er det, men det er den personlige dynamik.
But it's not one couple or two or three.
Men det er ikke bare et eller to eller tre forhold, vi snakker om.
This is systemic.
Det her, det er systemisk.
And depending on how you want to define abuse or what grade you want to give it, it's the majority of marriages.
Afhængigt af, hvordan du vil definere misbrug, så er det her sådan i de
So
fleste,
you come to two conclusions.
i de fleste ægteskaber. Så du kan komme til to konklusioner,
Whether you're a religionist or a secularist,
hvor end du er sekulær eller religiøs.
it's either by design
Det er enten gennem design,
so this is the way human beings are constructed.
så det her, det er sådan mennesker, de er skabt.
That men are inherently violent
At,
by
mænd,
design,
at mænd
and women are passive.
at mænd,
So you either go down that model,
at mænd, de vil, gennem fødslen er voldelige,
or there's another model,
at mænd fra gennem design er
which is what?
og kvinder ikke er.
So Alyssa said choice.
Jeg fik ikke lige oversat det, han ellers sagde. Så
I'm going to suggest it's not choice.
Alisa, hun foreslår, at det er gennem valg.
I'm going to suggest those men are not making a choice to be violent to their wives.
Jeg foreslår, at de her mænd, tager ikke valget om at være voldelige mod deres hustruer.
Because if it was that simple, it would be easily fixable.
Fordi hvis det var så simpelt, så ville det være nemt at fikse det problem.
Kathy,
Kathy,
say the first bit.
Go to the government and make it political.
So we should look to the government and see it's a political issue.
så vi skal kigge på regeringen og se, at det er et politisk emne.
Bob?
Humanity's been marinating in society's undue influence.
So human beings have been victims for millennia of society.
Så mennesker, de har været ofre af samfundet.
So Sarah said it's bad training from childhood.
En sagde, at det er dårlig
Whose fault is that bad training?
dårlig træning fra barndommen. Hvis skyld er den dårlige træning?
Maybe if that child saw that his parents.
So the parents are at fault?
Så er det forældrenes skyld.
I would say sometimes yes.
So if it's, Sarah said yes.
Sara sagde ja.
So if it's the parents' fault, it's personal.
Så hvis det er forældrenes skyld, så er det personligt.
It's not political.
Så er det ikke politisk.
Straight?
There was
So Sarah said the personal and the political are the same.
Så Sara siger, at det personlige og det politiske er det samme.
They can't be the same because what happens in society, 7 billion people isn't me.
Det kan ikke være det samme, fordi 7 milliarder personer i samfundet er ikke mig,
but they are related for sure.
men de er relateret helt sikkert.
Okay, so we've spoken about society in a general way, but it's not like that, is it?
Så vi snakker om samfundet i en mere generel forstand, men det er ikke sådan.
This is men against women.
Det her, det er mænd mod kvinder.
That's what we're really speaking about.
Det er det, vi virkelig snakker om.
But part of the problem when we go down that narrative
Men problemet er, at når vi kører det narrativ,
is that men are as much a victim of this issue as women are.
er, at mænd er lige så meget offer af det her, som kvinder er.
Because of the bad upbringing that Sarah mentioned.
På grund af den dårlige...
Okay, so
på grund af den dårlige...
when there's domestic violence going on,
Så der er vold i hjemmet.
yes, it's a personal issue.
Ja, det er et personligt issue, vold i hjemmet.
Not all men are abusers, and not all women are abused.
Ikke alle mænd er voldelige, og ikke alle kvinder udøves der vold overfor.
But if we don't see what's going on at the individual level as a wider societal problem,
Men hvis vi ikke ser på det, der sker på et individuelt niveau, som et mere generelt billede,
there's no way of fixing that problem.
så er der ikke nogen måde at fikse det problem på.
We have to see this as a systemic problem.
Vi er nødt til at se på det her som et systemisk problem.
So you've probably heard of the term institutional racism or systemic racism.
I har helt sikkert hørt om ordene institutionelt racisme eller systemisk.
David, what does that mean to you? Institutional or systemic racism?
Hvad betyder det her institutionel racisme eller systemisk racisme for dig?
It's the core of society. And people don't even realize that this is how they act.
So David said this is the core of society,
Det her, det er kernen af samfundet.
and people don't realize how they act.
Det er der en, der siger, og folk indser ikke, hvordan de opfører sig.
Goes up and down, will change society.
And that issue runs all the way through society from the top to the bottom.
Og det problem, det løber igennem hele samfundet fra toppen til bunden.
Okay, so I don't want to give examples particularly,
Jeg vil ikke lige give jer eksempler,
but you may not be racist yourself,
du er måske ikke racist selv,
but you work for an organization or a government
men du arbejder for en organisation eller regeringen,
that approaches the problem based upon race.
der tilgår.
Therefore, even though you personally may not feel that way, the system or the company that you work for or society that you work for forces you to make decisions that are not good.
Så tilgår de problemet fra baseret på race, og du arbejder for en organisation eller regering, som tilgår problemet og tvinger dig til at tage valg baseret på race.
So we'll talk about the same issue, but we'll digress slightly.
Vi vil tale om det samme problem, men vi vil...
Is capitalism opposed to feminism?
Er kapitalisme og er det imod
So
feminisme?
one person says yes,
En
one
siger,
person says no,
en siger nej,
so we're not sure between ourselves.
så er vi ikke sikre.
So I have an idea of what capitalism is to me, but everybody may have their own views.
Jeg har min egen idé om, hvad kapitalisme er, men folk har måske deres egen idéer.
So you have a company, it's, I think you call it incorporated or limited or public company on the stock exchange.
Så du har en offentlig virksomhed.
So it's not a state-owned enterprise, it's a privately owned enterprise.
Som er på aktiemarkedet, så det er et privat firma.
What drives that company? What's the driving force behind that?
Hvad er drivkraften bag den her virksomhed?
Someone say anything over here?
Nogen sagde noget herovre.
Profit?
Profit?
Profit.
Profit.
Taking advantage of the situation.
So Bob said taking advantage of the situation, which sounds bad.
Bob siger, at det er at udnytte en situation, som lyder dårligt.
But when they said profit, that sounds pretty good to me.
Men når man siger profit, så lyder det ret godt, synes jeg.
So I don't want to put any morality on it.
Så jeg vil ikke sætte noget moralsk stand.
So this company that's on the stock exchange is driven to make money, to make profit.
Så det er til den virksomhed, som handler med aktier. Det firma,
Is that right or wrong, Bob?
de er drevet af profit.
It's not wrong if they're not. It's not wrong if they're not. Keep the advantage for the people in the process.
Er det rigtigt eller forkert?
So in that sense, it's not wrong.
So in that sense, it's not wrong, it's all good.
Fra det perspektiv, så er det ikke dårligt, så er det alt godt. Alt er
And I will
rigtigt.
remind everyone here
Jeg vil lige påminde alle her,
that all your pensions
at alle
are derived from this process.
pensioner kommer fra de her processer.
When you give money into the bank,
Når du,
whether it's short term or via a pension,
når du sætter penge ind i banken, hvor end det er kortsigtet eller i en pension,
you're buying into the capitalist model.
så køber du ind i den kapitalistiske model.
The only thing you care about
Det eneste, du går op i,
is that Apple makes a profit forever,
er, at Apple de får en profit for evigt,
so that you can get a pension at the end of the day.
så du kan få en pension til sidst.
And by the way, when you give your money to Social Security, that mechanism is exactly the same.
Og når du giver pengene til socials og til social sikkerhed, så foregår det præcis på samme måde.
So the problem obviously is,
Så problemet er tydeligvis
with that model,
med den model,
if you hire a woman,
er, at hvis du
that
ansætter,
woman is a liability.
så er denne kvinde så
Perhaps on various levels, but the most obvious one is what?
så er kvinderne et ansvar. Jeg hørte ikke lige, hvad han sagde.
Childbirth, pregnancy. It's the obvious one.
Det med kvinder, der er åbenlyst, det er, at de kan lave børn.
And it's not just the 3 months of pregnancy that they're going to be off work.
Og det er ikke kun de her 3 måneder, som de vil være væk fra arbejde.
It's not, whatever the number is, it's not the 6 months after birth that she's going to take off work.
Det er ikke de her 6 måneder efter fødslen, som hun vil tage fri fra.
So it's not just that 9 months.
Det er ikke bare de her 9 måneder.
because the company recognizes that she's going to be distracted.
Fordi virksomheden anerkender, at hun bliver
For the next 18 years.
distraheret i de næste 18 år.
So she affects the bottom line.
Så hun påvirker fundamentet, bundlinjen.
The profit. She
Profit.
affects the profit.
Hun påvirker profitten.
I've spoken about capitalism, but whether you go to Russia or China,
Jeg har talt om kapitalisme, men hvor end du går til Rusland eller Kina,
or some Latin American country,
eller til et latinsk-amerikansk land,
South America, I should say South American country.
jeg vil sige sydamerikansk
So
land,
whether you go to socialism or communism,
så hvor end du går til socialisme, eller
don't be deceived by their lies,
kommunisme, så lad være med at blive
because they're all driven by the same mechanism. It's all about profit.
vær ikke blind for deres intentioner, de er alle sammen drevet af profit.
And what does radical feminism teach? What is radical feminism, the model? What does that mean to you?
Og hvad lærer radikal feminisme? Hvad betyder den model for jer?
I said, are you a radical feminist? You said yes.
Jeg
What does
spurgte,
that mean?
hvad betyder det at være radikal feminist, som I påstår I er?
And remember, the personlige political, we're talking about politics now, or society. At that level, what does a radical feminist do?
Når vi og husk, vi taler om det personlige og det politiske. Hvad betyder det? Hvad gør en radikal feminist?
What does that society look like?
Hvordan ser det samfund ud?
Linda?
Linda?
Something different from cultural feminist. They're not going to give in to, you know.
I'm going to stop you there. My question is, we worked out what capitalism is, what that society looks like.
Vi har lige kommet frem til, hvad et kapitalistisk samfund ser, hvordan det ser ud.
It's about profit,
Det handler om profit,
to make sure everything sort of moves along smoothly.
for at sørge for, at alt går godt og uden problemer.
But we see people get hurt by that.
Men vi ser, at folk de bliver såret af det.
So what's a radical feminist society look like?
Så hvordan ser et radikalt feministisk samfund ud?
So Linda said a radical feminist society is, she said like, I'm just going to take the like out, is socialism.
Linda siger, at et radikalt feministisk samfund er socialisme.
Is that, so you would say radical feminism is socialism?
Så du siger, at radikal feminisme er socialisme.
Okay, anyone else?
Okay, er der andre?
Alyssa. So Alyssa says advocate human rights over profit.
Det er, det er at være fortaler for menneskerettigheder i stedet for profit.
So I guess in our little group, a few of us, maybe a quarter, I don't know the number, are retired.
Så jeg tror, i den her gruppe, så er der måske en kvart af os, som er gået på pension.
Can you put your hands up if you were willing to lose half of your pension, whatever your pension number is, half of that to follow Alyssa's suggestion?
Hvor mange af jer vil være villige til at give halvdelen af jeres pension for at følge det, som Alyssa foreslår?
Only the ones who have. Alyssa said we should put human rights over profit.
Elisa siger, at vi skal sætte menneskerettigheder højere end profit.
And I've asked the people who are receiving a pension, would they be willing to only have half of that pension to fulfill Alyssa's dream?
Og jeg spørger dem, som får pension her, om de er villige til at opgive halvdelen af deres pension for at opnå den drøm, som Alyssa hun fortæller om. Foreslår.
Okay, so I've got no hands up.
Så jeg fik ingen hænder. Der var ingen, der rækte hånden op.
Oh, I've got one hand up. One person said yes, they'd be willing to half their pension to have human rights upheld.
Så en siger, at de vil være villige til at opgive halvdelen af deres pension for at ophøje menneskelige rettigheder.
Bob, you would say yes, you would, or?
No, my thoughts are going elsewhere. I want to keep on.
Okay. So I don't know how many people here are retired, but only one person has said yeah, they'd be willing to do that.
Jeg ved ikke, hvor mange der er pensioneret her, men der er kun en af dem, der siger, at de er villige til at gøre det.
And fundamentally, that's the problem that we are facing.
Og det der er fundamentalt det problem, som vi står overfor.
That when we look at radical feminism,
Er, at når vi ser på radikal feminisme,
and I'm not saying this is the definition,
og jeg siger ikke, at det der er definitionen,
but Alyssa has suggested that radical feminism is human rights.
men Alyssa har foreslået, at radikal feminisme er menneskelig
And as
rettighed.
soon as you prioritize that, it hurts financially.
Og så snart du prioriterer det, så gør det økonomisk ondt.
And even though we love the theory,
Og selvom vi elsker teorien,
maybe we don't relish the reality.
så er vi ikke, så nyder vi ikke realiteten.
And that's something that we have to really get to grips with personally and as a movement.
Og det er noget, som vi skal kunne komme til gribe om, når det kommer til os som bevægelse.
Because it's not just about money. I've just targeted money. That's only one issue.
Det handler ikke kun om penge. Det er kun en af problematikkerne. Det er noget, vi skal... Ja.
Because to turn a large ship around is not only slow, it has to be done. It takes a long time for that to happen.
Det at vende et stort skib om, det tager meget lang tid.
And many changes need to happen.
Og der skal ske mange forandringer.
And I think as a movement,
Og som bevægelse,
our issue isn't financial.
så er vores problemer ikke økonomiske.
Because we're not an incorporated company, so it's not. We don't have a financial model.
Vi er ikke en virksomhed, så derfor har vi ikke en økonomisk model.
But we're not doing well on other aspects about switching from a capitalist model to a radical feminist model.
Men det går ikke så godt med os på andre fronter, som at bevæge os fra en kapitalistisk model til en radikal feministisk.
Because capitalism isn't just about the bottom line. It's not just about profit. I targeted that one because it's easy.
Kapitalisme handler nemlig ikke kun om bundlinjen, men jeg har valgt at tale om den, fordi den er nem at tale om.
I'm just going to deal with one more, if I can remember. Kathy?
Jeg vil bare lige tale om en ting mere.
You had your hand raised, yeah.
Well, my question was, does socialism work?
Okay, so Kathy's asking, does socialism work?
Så Kathy spørger, om socialisme det virker.
So Linda mentioned that radical feminism looked like socialism.
Så Linda sagde, at radikal feminisme, det ligner socialisme.
And I didn't go down that route to unpackage that or deconstruct it.
Jeg begyndte ikke at udfolde det.
but I know that many people would have their doubts about the validity of a socialist model.
Men jeg ved, at mange eller nogen, de vil have tvivl ved en socialistisk model.
So I wasn't going to explore that, if that's okay.
Så jeg vil ikke udfolde det, hvis det er okay.
It just would, like, perhaps my answer different, but. People follow capitalism, socialism, communism. Communism doesn't work.
So Kathy said that capitalism, socialism, communism doesn't work. None of them work.
Så Kathy siger, at hverken socialisme, kommunisme eller
And I
kapitalisme,
think earlier I did suggest that they're all based around making money, even though that they profess that they're not.
og tidligere så tror jeg også, jeg har nævnt, at de alle sammen gerne vil altså tjene penge.
Another problem with the capitalist model
En anden problematik med den
is
kapitalistiske
it's based upon an evolutionary model.
er, at den er baseret på et evolutionært model.
Carol, you said yes. What do you think that means to you?
Carol, du sagde ja. Hvad mener du, det betyder for dig?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, det er fint.
So I'll tell you my thoughts.
Så jeg vil fortælle om mine tanker.
The evolutionary model is built upon one premise, even though they say it's not anymore.
Den evolutionære model er baseret på et princip, selvom de siger, at det ikke længere er.
It's survival of the fittest.
Det er den stærkeste, som overlever.
And that's what capitalism is.
Og det er, hvad kapitalisme er.
And I think if you spent the time, if we discussed it, we would see that this organization, this movement is built upon that model, survival of the fittest.
Og jeg tror, hvis vi brugte tid på det, så vil vi se, at denne model, den bygger på den stærkeste overlever. Den her bevægelse er bygget på det.
How do you, Bob denies that. Bob says no, he doesn't see it.
Bob, han siger nej. Han siger det ikke.
I'll give you my evidence.
Jeg vil give jer mit bevis.
I could be wrong.
Jeg kunne tage fejl.
Leadership in this movement were never voted upon.
Lederskab i den bevægelse, hvornår, eller når det bliver stemt
How
om.
do you become a leader in this movement, a mover and a shaker?
Hvordan bliver du en leder i den her bevægelse?
No more than others.
You know more than others.
Du ved mere end andre.
So either you've got more presence,
Enten er du mere til,
you've got more skills,
du er mere til stede, du har
or you're a
flere,
better teacher.
du har flere evner, du er en bedre lærer.
I think they're all facets of the fittest people.
Jeg synes, alle disse er facetter af de mest passende mennesker. Stærkeste mennesker.
Are the ones that get percolated up to the top.
Det er dem, som bliver sat op i toppen.
That's what I meant by survival of the fittest.
Det er hvad jeg mente, når jeg siger, at den stærkeste overlever.
Now what do you think, Bob?
The movement may well be unduly influenced by cultural and society, but it's not the way God wants it to work.
So before I translate that, are you saying we're not doing well? You agree with me and that we should be better? Or I'll translate all this in a minute.
We need to recognize complete equality, and that doesn't even fit in any of the other models that the world functions under. Like you said, turning the ship around, how much time would it take to do that?
So Bob says we shouldn't be influenced by society.
Så Bob siger, at vi skal ikke blive påvirket af samfundet.
We shouldn't be following its models, its premises.
Vi skal ikke følge dens modeller og dens præmisser.
We all agree on that.
Det er vi alle enige om.
My question is, are we doing well or not well in this movement?
Mit spørgsmål er, om gør vi det godt i den her bevægelse, eller
Not so well, some ways.
So Bob agrees we're not doing well.
Bob er enige om, at vi gør det ikke godt.
I want to ask one last question before we close.
Jeg stiller et sidste spørgsmål, inden vi slutter af.
So we all agree that survival of the fittest is our model.
Så vi er alle enige om, at den stærkeste overlever er modellen, som vi gør bruger i
So
bevægelsen.
my second question is that good or bad or necessary or
Så mit
what else can we do?
Så mit
So
spørgsmål,
if we
så mit spørgsmål det er godt, er det nødvendigt? Hvad kan vi gøre?
I made it sound all negative.
Jeg fik det til at lyde dårligt, negativt.
Only the best people get the high places.
Kun de bedste folk får de højeste stillinger.
Is that bad?
Er det en
Is it
dårlig?
wrong?
Er det forkert?
Quick show of hands. Sarah, wrong? Sarah says yes.
Sara siger ja.
Wrong. Wrong.
Forkert.
It's right.
Det er rigtigt.
Not sure.
Ikke sikker.
It's right.
Det er rigtigt.
Right.
Rigtigt.
Right.
Rigtigt.
It is important that those people take proper morals with them.
Sure. We want good leaders,
Vi vil have
but
gode,
they got to be clever,
men de skal være kloge.
competent.
De skal være kompetente.
They have to take morals that will help everybody with them when they're at the top. Because if they take morals that will not help everybody, then it becomes a negative impact on the entire community.
Good.
So I say that it's right under a great condition.
So David says it's right.
Så David
Sorry,
siger,
I
det er
don't
rigtigt.
remember your name.
Right.
And Ron said it was okay as long as people are morally good.
Og Ron sagde, det også var okay, når folk de er moralsk gode.
To the top is right, under the condition that, and I think we all understand this, that God is the one doing the percolating and raising the leadership. It's not just secular, like, oh, they're smarter, you know, and I agree that's part of the equation.
So Bob says, sorry, David said, that system is good.
Så David siger, det system, det er godt.
And the reason it's okay is because God is doing the filtering.
Og grunden til, det er godt, det er, fordi Gud han filtrerer det.
My only response to that, I wish it were true.
Mit svar til det er, at jeg vil ønske, det var sandt.
I believe it.
Kathy, is it good or bad, this system we have?
Kathy, er det et godt eller dårligt system, som han har,
I really don't know.
eller som der er?
Kathy says she wasn't sure.
Kathy siger, hun ikke er sikker.
Okay, so we've got a mixed response here.
Så vi har et blandet svar her.
Individually, we're all radical feminists,
Individuelt er vi alle
apparently.
radikale. Vi er alle sammen radikale feminismer, umiddelbart.
But politically,
Men politisk,
we don't have the same view of what radical feminism is.
men politisk set har vi ikke det samme billede af, hvad radikal feminisme er.
And that should be troubling to us.
Og det bør være bekymrende.
And it's not a criticism.
Og det her, det er ikke en kritik.
The best that anybody got to about describing radical feminism
Og det tætteste, nogen kom på at beskrive radikal feminisme, eller det bedste forslag,
besides the human rights model,
udover det med menneskelige rettigheder.
when the description was given to it, the closest we got was socialism.
Det tætteste, vi kom på det var socialisme, når det blev beskrevet. Hvad radikal feminisme var.
So one of the points I want us to see
Så en af de pointer, jeg gerne vil have, vi ser,
is that this movement
er, at denne
does
bevægelse,
not know what radical feminism is,
ikke ved, hvad radikal feminisme er,
beyond the personal.
udover det personlige.
And that's really important, I think, for us to have that realization.
Og det er vigtigt for os at have den åbenbaring.
Okay, we're going to close now, but I just want to bring things together.
Vi skal til at lukke, men jeg vil gerne lige samle det hele, som vi har snakket om.
We had a personal question.
Vi havde et personligt spørgsmål.
Can I go to class on the Sabbath?
Kan jeg gå i skole på sabbaten?
And I suggested that this was a political question,
Og jeg foreslog, at det var et politisk spørgsmål.
a societal one, I mean, of course.
Et samfundsspørgsmål, mener jeg selvfølgelig.
Society, the definition meaning this movement, that's the context of society.
Konteksten af samfundet af denne bevægelse.
I suggested,
Jeg foreslog,
and I think I've been proven correct,
og jeg synes, at jeg har bevist det rigtige. Eller jeg er
I'm just
blevet,
going to say movement instead of political now.
jeg vil sige bevægelsen i stedet for politisk.
This movement's views on the Sabbath are changing.
At denne bevægelses syn på sabbaten ændrer sig, forandrer.
It's not one person's question about food.
Det er ikke ens persons spørgsmål omkring mad.
Another person's questions about education.
En anden spørgsmål omkring uddannelse.
A third one about work.
En tredje en omkring arbejde.
Or a fourth person's question about cleanliness,
Og en fjerde
being
spørgsmål
clean.
omkring renlighed.
Bathing on the Sabbath.
At tage bad på sabbaten.
These are not individual personal issues. There's a political or movement-wide change happening.
Det her det er ikke en personpolitik, der er denne bevægelse og hele verdens forandring i det.
And I'm not saying it's good, and I'm not saying it's bad.
Hvis ikke det er godt eller dårligt.
I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong.
Jeg siger ikke, at det er rigtigt eller forkert.
But many members, as they're commenting, are making those positions that it's right, it's wrong, it's good, it's bad.
Men mange folk, de kommenterer, at det er rigtigt eller forkert.
And I gave some evidence. People might not see it as evidence, but at least I gave context of why I think it's a political or a societal or a movement issue.
Og nogen, de gav argumenter, og selvom de ikke indsatte for, at det er et politisk og en politisk problematik, men også en
And the reason I gave
problematik i bevægelsen. Og grundene,
is
jeg
that in Spiritual Gifts, chapter 33, Spiritual Gifts, volume 1, chapter 33,
at i Spiritual Gifts, kapitel 1,
which is the same as early writings,
side 33, tror jeg, han sagde, som det samme som Early Writings.
no chapter number, chapter title, The Sins of Babylon.
Der er kapitelnavnet Babylons synder.
Ellen White says the sin is what?
Hvad siger Ellen White, at synden er?
It's the sin of slavery.
Hun siger, at synden er slaveri.
3 chapters later,
3 kapitler senere,
in 36,
i 36,
the time of trouble,
endens tid, eller ja,
she
endens,
says, the reason you're in trouble
grunden til, du er i problemer,
is not because you're a slaveholder or an abolitionist,
er ikke fordi du er en slaveholder, eller en der kaster slaveri.
obviously the context would be because you're an abolitionist,
Og der er konteksten selvfølgelig, at du er en
the context is Sabbath.
abolitionist. Konteksten er
And
sabbat,
so there's this dichotomy or problem
så der er den her dikotomi, det her problem,
between Ellen White's model of, we'll call it the 1850 history,
med Ellen White, som vi kalder for 1850-tiden,
and the model that we have,
og den model, vi har,
where the test
hvor testen
is, we'll call it human rights or equality,
som vi kalder for menneskelige rettigheder, lighed
or sexism,
eller sexisme,
and the Sabbath is just an appendage.
og sabbaten er bare
It's some added thought. And as soon as you start doing that,
sabbaten er bare sådan en sidetanke, en tilføjelse, og så
I think, I don't know what you think, but we get into theological, doctrinal, prophetic problems.
og når vi gør det, så tror jeg på, at vi kommer ind i doktrinske,
Could
teologiske,
be wrong,
profetiske problemer. Jeg kunne tage fejl,
but that's the concern that I have.
men det er den bekymring, jeg har.
Let's close with prayer.
Lad os afslutte i bøn.
Dear Lord,
Kære Gud,
I believe each of us understands what it means to be a radical feminist.
jeg tror på, at vi hver især ved, hvad det vil sige at være radikal feminist,
As it relates to our personal autonomy,
når det kommer til vores personlige autonomi.
I want to be treated fairly and equally.
Jeg vil gerne behandles retfærdigt og lige.
I thank you that you treat me that way.
Jeg takker dig for, at du behandler mig sådan.
I want to treat my fellow members that way too.
Jeg vil gerne behandle de andre medlemmer i bevægelsen på den samme måde.
But we have been taught,
Men vi har lært,
and I believe,
og jeg tror på,
that the political is the personal.
at det politiske er det personlige.
But I don't know what a radical feminist movement looks like.
Men jeg ved ikke, hvad en radikal feministisk bevægelse ser ud som.
I don't know how to construct one.
Jeg ved ikke, hvordan jeg skal konstruere en.
From the ashes of this current model that we live in.
Fra asken af den nuværende model, som vi lever i.
My prayer,
Min bøn,
I hope it's the prayer of each of us,
håber jeg, er bønnen fra os hver især,
is that you would give us the wisdom and the foresight
at du vil give os visdom og indsigt i,
the understanding and the strength to make those changes.
give os forståelse for
We need to understand,
den styrke, som vi har brug for.
but above all, we need to have wisdom
Vi har brug for at forstå, men overalt har vi brug for visdom
to correctly apply the information that we need to have.
til at gøre brug af den information, vi har fået korrekt.
Help us to become radical feminists as a movement.
Hjælp os til at blive radikalt feminister som en bevægelse,
and to stop seeing this as a personal issue.
og lad være med at se det her som et personligt issue, som et personligt problem.
In Jesus' name, amen.
I Jesu navn. Amen.